I'm working with a lot of companies, and I really hate to see some of those great ideas go to waste, and for different reasons. Either they lose the passion, they lost their money, or develop a product that cannot sell. These waste, some of those ideas are really great. So, that's why I think, the work you do in that product market fit area is really, really great and really, really valuable to a lot of these innovators, to make sure that, what they're developing, all that effort and passion and money that they're spending will end up in something that they can be successful.
Ever poured your heart into designing something only to find no one wants it? Some designs win awards, others win customers. Hi, I'm Linda Ginger, and this is That Product Market Fit Guide podcast. Today, I'm talking to Hamed Garjania, a product designer who knows how to make sure products are both beautiful and wanted by weaving market fit into the design process from day one. Welcome to That Product Market Fit Guy, the show where we unpack the moments that make or break great ideas. In each episode, Trevor and I talk about how innovators, startups, and entrepreneurs can find, and more importantly, keep that perfect match between product and market. We get into the thinking, the process, and the pitfalls so you can create products that win hearts, minds, and markets. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. My guest today, Hamed, is an engineer and a polymer specialist. He's the president of the Society of Plastic Engineers Australia and New Zealand and owner of Krinac, a product design company that designs products that don't just sit on a shelf, they solve real problems for real people. His experience spans startups and global companies, guiding products from concept sketches right through to launch. And always with the end user in mind. He's seen the good, the bad, and the surprisingly ugly of product design and knows what it takes to get it right. Hamed, let's just start at the top. What role does product market fit play in informing product design, and how early should it be considered and why?
First of all, thank you, Linda, for a very kind introduction. It's a pleasure being with you. Basically, as a product design and development company, we can almost design and develop any product our customers asking for. But usually that's not the right approach. And we usually have a discussion with them, basically questioning why they want to develop this product, where it come from, who's this for. And surprisingly, lots of them don't know. So, usually the idea of developing a new product comes from your personal experiences, the problems you have with, what you're doing, the things you can think that can improve or do it better. So, this is the problem you have. I mean, you want to solve it. You want to develop a product that can solve it for you and for others. And because some people think that all the rest of the market or whoever going to sell this also have the same problem I have, without really doing a research, without really knowing the extent of it and who they can sell the product, then they assuming that the product and the solution they want to develop going to sell. Because of course, product development is not developing a product for yourself. You want to design, you want to start a business. So for that business, you need to know who you're going to sell this solution to. And one main issue that we see a lot of people have is that they developing a solution and they trying to find a problem for it. So, they start thinking of a product, a solution, and come to us and asking that how we can help them develop and build this product, which we can. But, that's not the right approach, because without knowing who you're going to sell it to and what their needs are, which is completely possible that's is different to what you are personally experienced, then you will have problem. Point is then, if you haven't considered that, and if you don't get it right, then you end up developing a product, end up spending a lot of time and money on a product that no one wants.
Mm.
And I believe that's one of the major issues that fail a lot of startup companies,
Mm.
in short. Yeah.
Yeah, so they virtually have this vision that they want to bring to life, and want to fast track that without really checking that there's more to the audience than just yourself.
Exactly. And this
Yeah.
is very, very important, because when you know your customer, and that is those informations comes from that market, fit study, and the market product market fit study, and of course, the market research you do, finding out the market segments, and all those sort of study and works that you need to do basically before the product development, or at least in parallel with it. Defining what is the feature of the product that we need to develop, because then if you find out later on that you got your market wrong, then you develop something for them that they don't need, they don't
Mm.
want. Maybe in most of the cases you develop a lot of features to the product that no one really require, or missing a very important one when they actually they can't accept that.
Yeah.
The pricing is also another very important thing. You need, based on that information, you can tell what the range of final product in terms of price needs to be, and and all the other rest is affecting our product development process.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and that's good. And then, how you're going to develop that product for that price may be actually problematic. It leads me to something that I think maybe many listeners, I know I was this case up until recently. Can you just tell us, what's the difference between a product designer and an industrial designer? I've always considered, I guess, industrial design, but until I've met you, Hamed, you've made me realize like what the attributes of actually finding a product designer, which I think is really valuable for our audience to know.
Yes, true. What I define it, or the way I define it, is that um, industrial design is basically the first part of the product design. So product design goes a lot further than just the industrial design, because industrial design, of course, in a sense, looking into how you can capture that idea that it's in someone's head into something physical that it looks great, fit all the requirements from the customer, hopefully, if we know it, and then create a product that can work the best in the purpose of this business or product development process. But then when you go into the next steps of the product development, basically then you work into the details of engineering, because sometimes you have some mechanism that needs to be developed for that product. Sometimes those are the key part of it. So without validating a mechanism that you have in mind, you can actually develop that product. Unless you have the shape which is looking great and you think that this is going to work, but unless you validate it, you can't tell that. And then it goes into a very important part of that development, which is related to how you're going to manufacture it. So
Mm.
unless you're thinking of it from the beginning, you will end up with a product which looks great, and as you mentioned in that initial intro, it wins an award, but never going to get into the product that the customers see and can buy.
And we want both, don't we, Hamid? We
Yes,
want it win
certainly.
awards and we want it to win hearts and minds of customers, because that's,
Exactly.
yeah, getting the monetary return on that
Yes.
idea. So now that we've defined it, let's talk about what it actually looks like in action. So can you just walk us through the sort of broad process of product design from that sort of initial
Mm.
idea through to launch, which is obviously, what you've just described then is the sort of the product designer's um,
Yes. Yes.
full suite of
Sure.
service.
If someone, for example, come to us with an idea, usually the whole process is something like this. Of course, based on the complexity, based on what is involved in there, it might change a little, but in overall overview of the process, it's almost the same. So the main first starting point is, and I'm assuming that the customer knows who are the customer of the product and the product market fit, and all the informations from their market and clients. But then based on that, we will work on that industrial design, the concept design of the product. So we transform that idea or even the proof of concept to something which looks great, can do the job that they want, and have the physical elements that actually will do the applications and the functionalities and what is required in the product. The next step usually is, after that visualization is started, to do the modeling and a CAD and making something that physically we can start in going to the details, because usually that in initial concept design there is no detail. So we look into the product as the whole, but there is no fixture, bracket, there is nothing engineering done in that. So then the next phase is what we call detail engineering. So now you sit down, break it down into the parts that can be manufactured later. And in that sector, and even before that, we need to look into, although it is very early, but even from that early, we need to consider how we're going to manufacture it. Because I've seen a lot of product that they are designed and looks great, and even the prototype is, very schmick, looks perfect. But when we get into the last step, then we say, this is not manufacturable. No one can manufacture this product. And because it is not done with that, in that mindset in mind, and they're designing it. So then we need to break it down again, sometimes repeat a lot of process that costs a lot of time, waste a lot of time, until we get to the point of something that can manufacture. So after that design, detail engineering, and developing mechanism, if there are some electronics, for example, involved, we need to get into that, developing the electronics, finding and sourcing the component. Then we actually get to the point that we're making a prototype. So make a prototype and then start testing. And prototyping is not just one step. So there's a lot of step in there. Usually in a broad term, we have an alpha prototype and a beta prototype, and what we can call as an MVP, for example, like a working prototype. So alpha prototype, very simply, is something that you can build and put together very simply, just to have a better understanding of a shape, form, size, how things fit together. And that's where we are basically looking to some of those details that we might have done wrong in the initial steps, that maybe the concept is wrong, something, the size maybe is too large. When you look into the screen, you can't really have a feel of it. When you have it in front of yourself and your hand, then you say, oh, no, this is a bit too deep, too big, too small. One sector that you see a very large in your screen, then when you make it, you can see that the finger cannot go in, because that's really not intuitive. So we'll fix on those issues and then repeat the process. So again, after modification, making another prototype, then start testing it. If there are some more components, you put them all together and then start more testing, which is more close to that beta prototype that they use. And then later on is as an MVP. So we put everything together. It's much more polished, looks nicer, it can work. So then actually you can go into your market, show to a few people, to customers, get some feedback from them, and then actually add that into your design process. So make sure that you are ready. And next step, usually design for manufacturing. Get everything ready for manufacturing, design for testing. Sometimes you need to go through some testing, certification, some regulatory sort of requirements for the product, depends on the market and all that. In this process, we get that design, which is done before that, for just the prototyping and prototyping materials and process, now into something that can be manufactured, drawing tolerances, all the parts, all those things needs to be done. And usually the last step, which is also a very important step, is just to get everything ready for manufacturing. Find manufacturers, start talking to them, get pricing, get quality control done, get sampling, mold design, all those sort of steps.
I've got to say, Hamed, There's a lot involved, isn't it? I mean, I'm going to have you back to talk even just through, proof of concept as one stage and what's involved in that, but also this whole prototyping piece and making everything ready for manufacture. Because I can imagine every change that happens, you have to still test to see whether it's manufacturable, which will cut
Exactly.
down on
Yeah.
so many more costs if it's not, and going back in the redesign process. And look, I'd imagine that along this journey, there are many surprises, some good surprises and some not so good. So, what are some of the big surprises that innovators run into during that whole product design process?
One could be, what we just explained. The Some of the founders or the innovators might not have an idea of this whole process. So they were
Mm,
thinking, and I've seen a lot that they have an idea. They come to us and say, "I want to manufacture it." Say, "All right, what do you have?" They just got an idea and they think that's ready. So someone just design it and then we send it to the manufacturer. They manufacture it. So their expectation of what's involved is not right. So, and it's in both times. So, in terms of complexity, in terms of time, and in terms of the cost. So, there's a lot involved in that process, as I very briefly explained, and that needs to
mm,
be done. There's a lot of R&D. There's a lot of try and error involved in there for everyone until we make sure that the product we're designing fit all the requirements, and that's something that your customer wants at the end. And uh, you know, some people also, I would say, they are very much attached to their idea. They love it, and that's great, having that passion. But sometimes they cannot get sort of advice from others
mm,
that this is not a product that you can sell in the market. You need to modify it, or need to change who you think you can sell it to the customer, and that is very important because um, like what you said about the product market fit, if you know who you're going to sell it to, who is your customer, that might change the whole scenario of the product and the product features. Because then you might build, for example, for let's say a product in a construction area. First, you might think that you can sell it to the individual people and household, but then later on you might find out, no, you can't sell it to the insurance company because they are buying these products and give it to the car. So that could completely change how you're going to design the product because the way you're going to sell it is different. So there are a
right.
lot of these sort of scenarios that affect the product design, and if they don't know it, they end up having a product at the end or in the middle. Then they found out they can't sell it. Another interesting point that I reached to is that some of especially technical people and founders, they're only thinking of the technical side of the development.
Mm,
So they focus on the technical, how the product needs to look like, work, perform, and then not enough focus on the market and business side of it. I had
mm.
a few customers that they actually developed a product to the end and it is completely ready for manufacturing. So I said, all right, whenever you say yes, we just help you set up the manufacturing. And then she said, oh, okay, so how can I sell it? I said, no, you don't know. And she
Yeah, there's a
hasn't done
lot
anything.
there. I know, I know. And look,
So,
I find other thing is that it's fantastic to think that everyone's your customer, and literally you want the vision that all of these people can be your customer. But if you can actually do what you say and actually find that first customer that has the biggest pain point, they're just the sprout or seed from which you can actually then get traction. So helping them, because I see so many just build so many features in it, they want it absolutely perfect, and then it's hard to actually identify and make the marketing so focused on the key audience that will get that first customer away. That's why, you know, we're talking to you. You know how important product market fit is, and it'll just make it less
mhm,
expensive to go through all of well, some of the issues that you described. We don't want innovators wasting money or spending way
exactly.
more time
I look,
than they
I'm working with a lot of companies and I really hate to see some of those great ideas go to waste and for different reasons, either they lose the passion, they lost their money, or develop a product that cannot sell. These waste, some of those ideas are really great. So,
Yeah.
that's why I think, the work you do in that product market fit area is really, really great and really, really valuable
Mm.
to a lot of these innovators to make sure that, what they're developing, all that effort and passion and money that they're spending will end up in something that they can be
I
successful.
think one of the things you touched on too was, and it came to my mind just recently in something that I purchased, is sometimes the fixation around the actual product idea, but there's other things that need to be thought through from a design process as well, like the packaging and how is it logistically going to land in the customer's hands? What do you want that experience to be when someone buys your product, etc.? So all of that's part of the product design process as well. So it's a very broad aspect and a very important one.
It is very important, yes. And as you said, all of those important, your positioning, your branding, your packaging, how you introduce it, who you introduce it to first. Because as you mentioned before, for lots of new product, you're going to introduce it first to a specific group. There are those what called early adopters. Yes, in a perfect world, you can sell it to everyone in the future, but that's everyone's not going to buy your product first. So you want to make sure that you impress those early group so then they
Mm,
can help you in the marketing of it. So then you need to know them. You need to know
yeah,
what's important. And those specific early adopters can be completely different to your later wider range of
that's
customers.
right. Yeah,
They have different reason to buy your product. They
yeah,
they are more riskier than others. So you need to know what's the reason behind it. So then you have something in there that satisfies their needs, which can be completely different to your other wide range of customers. So if you get that wrong, your product is perfect, but no one's going to buy. So it can be as
that's
simple as that. Nothing wrong in the idea, nothing wrong in the product development. Just get your customer wrong.
get them to be raving fans. And you're absolutely right. It's actually trying to find those potential raving fans from the start. You shouldn't just have like a list of 1,200 people that you know that you're going to just send it off. You've got to really, what is it? It's only like 3% that are actually out of that whole list are the ones you should tap on the shoulder and bring on the journey and make them raving fans so that you can use them as proof points for expanding the product. No, it's fantastic. But, I'm sure there's lots of people listening here who might be thinking about working with a designer, a product designer. What advice would you give them about how they should be choosing the right product designer for them?
Yeah, that's another good question. One important thing for everyone is to make sure that whoever you're going to work with, um, they understand where you're coming from and align with your way of thinking. And they are not just do what you say, they're trying to help you, advise you, and help you in that whole process. So add something to your understanding of product development and help you in terms of getting to that end. And of course, they need to basically, I believe this is really, really important, have a good understanding of the whole process of product development.
Mm,
Because and I've seen a lot of people who, for different reason, one of them could be financial, go, for example, find a freelancer and working with them. So yes, they can deliver something, but then the problem in most of the cases we reach to is that that design is not done with the whole process in mind. So in lots of the cases, we end up that this is a waste of time, a waste of money too. So one important thing is you need to consider you have this holistic approach into the product development. And that's really valuable because most of these innovators and everyone else have limited resources, limited time, limited money, limited, everything. So you want to be efficient. You want to
mm,
know what is the fastest path to your aim and target. So for that you need to have that holistic approach, not just focusing on the product, industrial design of part of it, not just the engineering, not just the end of it, just the whole thing, because they are all interlinked to each other. That really helps to ensure that that effort that you put in will end to the best result for the
yeah.
innovators.
I mean, would you recommend that they actually meet more than one product designer and see what their process is and get and might have used them, or should they be specialists in the area that their product is going to be designed for? Like, is there some things that they can look out for just on that top level first?
That would be useful, yes. Having a chat with few different companies might give them some better understanding of the different ways that different product development company work. They all have different, approaches, different expertise in different areas. There might be some companies that previously worked in similar areas that
Mhm.
might be useful in a particular sort of, development, especially if there are a lot of research and developments involved. So yeah, that's definitely can be helpful. And knowing a better understanding of their wide range of expertise that they can actually help
Mm.
them along the way.
Yeah, no, I think you gave some great tips there, even just about, making sure it's manufacturable, the things that you can ask when you're, talking to industrial designer as to what their full process is. And I'd say that was one of the critical
Mm,
things is to ask them about that. Look, that's a great takeaway. And
yes.
I guess before we wrap, Hamed, where can people find out more about your work?
One of the first easy ways for it would be our website. So www.creenac.com. There are a lot of informations there and some examples of our work.
Hamed, thank you for sharing your insights and experience today. I think our listeners now see just how important that, market fit is when we're looking at great design. So I know Trevor and I would love to have you back for future episodes. We could go deep in some of those areas that we mentioned. So let's make sure that happens too. So, and to our listeners, if you found this conversation valuable, make sure you hit that subscribe button or follow button right now in your podcast app so you don't miss the next episode. And remember, a great idea is only half the story. It's the fit that turns it into a winner. I'm Linda Ginger, and this has been the Product Market Fit Guy. See you next time.